Hola YouTube, my name is Ricardo Lino and I'm a wheel addict. Welcome to Skate Talks number 16. My guest today is 1 year younger than I am. He is 36 years old and he started skating around 1988 with quads. So, kind of like me. He skates aggressive skates, he skates recreational skating, especially lately. But about 1 year ago, he started his own company. His own company makes one product only, and it's a very, very niche product. But you know what? I ended up buying one of his products last week. And after buying one of his products, I asked him if he wanted to make a skate talk. So let's talk with Cletus Kuhn. He is the owner of Wish Frames, and Wish is spelled a little bit different than normal. But let's make the call to Cletus and see what he has to say and how do you write the name of his brand and all that stuff. Let's do this. Yo, how you doing, man?
Pretty good.
So, for everyone listening to this, they should know that that's the first time that we are talking. I called you like 5 minutes before this, but I never met you before. We never met before. Yep. I bought a pair of your frames last week, and I thought it would be super interesting to make these with you. So thank you so much for taking the time. And I made a little introduction about you. I said for how long you've been skating, how old are you? But you want to say a little bit more about yourself? Like, I know that you are a mechanical engineer. How does a mechanical engineer start a chassis, like you call it, frame company?
Well, it just comes from desire to design things, I guess. It's part of it. And, mechanical properties of different things is kind of, a specialty of mechanical engineering. So it suits the task of designing a chassis really well. And then the plastic side of it was quite a bit of learning, but yeah, just kind of sit down, have an idea, sit down, start drawing some things in CAD and, keep refining it for many, many late nights and many months in a row until it's exactly what I wanted to make.
And are you happy with the final product or what?
Yeah, really happy with it. There's always some improvements to be made, and some like very picky things like, oh, maybe this could be like 0.5 millimeter different or something. But,
and have you tried anything different other than the product out in the market now? Like, have you tried the ones with those little 0.5 millimeter changes that you just said, or anything like that?
Not really. I mean, we had done some 3D printing prototypes and was able to change things and kind of get them dialed in. And then, just thinking like, oh, if I would tweak this a little bit, maybe it'd be different. But trying to do that is pretty expensive. So I've just been focusing on making sure that what we put into the mold and then what we get out is really quality stuff. That's kind of all I've been paying attention to lately, since the final
That's
design
awesome.
and stuff.
Like, without even seeing the frame in my hands ever, I ended up ordering one. So well, I guess like the people that is skating them also influences people in general. Do you have a team for Wish frames?
Well, yes and no. I haven't officially announced it, but
okay, you have the time now. I'm sorry to interrupt. Now you can announce your officially. Yes. You can announce the Wish team.
So we have Greg Freeman from Denver, Colorado, and he was like a big inspiration in making these. I just remember years ago I was in Colorado and he was just shredding around on an old pair of rollerblade lightnings with 72 millimeter wheels. I mean, doing topside tricks, huge alley-oop airs out of quarter pipes and stuff, and just a super big smile on his face. And so, that was years before I started to sit down to design this, but that's part of a big inspiration. Like, man, when you can cruise around and really go fast and do this stuff, it's fun, sort of thing. We got Miguel Ramos. Gosh, he's just so good, such a good influence and like such a positive attitude about everything. And when I went up there to Woodward, I showed him the frame, and he actually let me modify his skate to fit him. Went cruising around on him, and I have a picture of him from that first session where he was just kind of in happy disbelief that this actually works and feels the way it does. And ever since then, he's really, really enjoyed them. Then we have Robbie Pitts, and he's been getting really funky on them. I think they suit his style really well, especially with the different types of rocker that are available with different wheel combinations. He likes to do those kind of swivels and fast feet movement. And then we got Andy Lederman, and he did the I think he ended up winning the
I know. He's amazing, and he's not amazing just on inline skates. He's amazing also on skateboards and stuff. He's another wheel addict, and he's amazing with everything he does.
And so Greg, I know Andy Lederman for a few years, but Greg Freeman is really good friends with him. And so Greg said, this was a while back, said, hey, I got this other pair here, and I'm going to send them to Andy Lederman. What do you think? I said, yeah, definitely. I think he'd be a good guy to do it. I think my first memory of Andy Lederman was on Colorado road trip a long time ago. Hadn't quite perfected it yet. Was doing on this little slider bar Mizu with a front flip out. And it's just like, what is it? Whoa, oh my goodness. And then, he's just really amazing. I've seen him do things where it's he's riding a skateboard on rollerblades and doing just wild tricks on that.
He's just good. Okay, so that's your official. You have 4 people officially on Wish frames then. But there's more people out there. I know that the mushroom blading guys, they've been skating your frames, and there's I've seen a lot more people with the frames. So there are a lot. I mean, it's fun to see them on everybody's feet. Definitely. Surprised how far they've reached so quickly. I mean, it's been about a year almost since I was able to finally make the first production line and get them out for all the pre-orders. But they've gotten around, and I feel like it's kind of a blade nerdy product. Yeah, but you know what? I don't want to say that skating is small or whatever, but we're in an era of aggressive skating that it's going a lot into smaller wheels, and I guess the people that has been skating for the longest, they end up realizing that the small wheels a lot of times were just blocking them from having fun. I'm not saying that skating with smaller wheels is not fun. I still skate a lot with smaller wheels, but after skating with smaller wheels for so long, when you get back, if you've been skating like anti-rocker setup or something like that, when you get back to flat, or if you skate like 72s instead of 60s, you end up having that joy of rolling again, completely different. And that's why you said something for me that was really important. You said 2 things, but one of them has to do with what I'm saying now, which is when you spoke about Greg Freeman, right? That's his name. You said that you were skating with a huge smile on your face, and that puts a smile on my face just to think that you're choosing the team for your company, having that in mind. Because for me, that's one of the most important things. Like Miguel is one of the most positive guys that I know, and that's seriously what we need in skating, in my opinion. Obviously, seeing like someone at the park. So I have a little shop inside a skate park. When I see someone here, it doesn't matter if they're on a BMX, on a skateboard, or on a pair of inline skates, you call it rollerblades, with a smile on their face, man, it's good to see. It's like, it makes you want to skate. It doesn't matter what they have under their feet. So I guess that's a really smart marketing decision. That's one of the things. But then you said something else that also I thought it was interesting. You said that Miguel allowed you to change, to adapt his skates to fit the frame. So tell me, you need to do some changes on the skates for the frame to fit perfectly. Is that it?
Yeah, it's just you make a recess above the first and the fourth wheel on the sole plate. And so the actual, when you use a 72 millimeter wheel on the outside, you make that recess so the wheel can actually sit 3 millimeters up into the sole plate. Which, let's see, I think it's similar to how the Aeons are, but they have it. But you know what? A lot of people, I think more people was doing that with the slimline frames from Kaiser. I actually did it with a few, that there was a skate from USD a few years ago, a Throne 80. I don't know if you've seen that. And that Throne 80 had slimline frames, and they kind of have that
cut. It's not really a cut, but it's like a shaving on the front and the back of the sole plate. I think that was it. And that will allow you to, and that would allow people to have the 80 millimeters. And I've done that with a few other skates when people have like the slim lines and they want to put bigger wheels. Sometimes I don't even use a Dremel. I just cut a piece of the sole plate, because in the end, you don't really need that piece of the sole plate in your wheels, just to look at just to make it look pretty, you know. So if you cut that little piece until the UFS bolt, at least you have a lot of space. But that's cool.
So it was. I brought him. You know, I knew he skated Valos, so I brought him. I had a V13 sole plate I had modified to bring to him to put on his boot, and he said, "Oh, well, the bolts are stripped. I can't get it off." So luckily, I brought the Dremel with me, and I was like, "He's like, oh, well, I'll just put on these 65 millimeters." I was like, no, you got to try it out, you know, with a 7260. And you know, I think he's very picky, and he probably doesn't let people mess with his stuff. But I was lucky he let me take the Dremel to his sole plate and fit him on there. And it was good. I'm glad.
Miguel, the last time I was in Woodward West, I ended up putting Miguel on quads, and that was funny. Man, I need to find. But that was before. That was when he first met Michelle, the girl from Moxie. I was there with Michelle, and then. That's when Miguel first met Michelle, and after that they met a lot more times, and I know that he even has a pair of roller skates now, but that was the first time. That was funny. I need to find that footage. I need to put that footage somewhere, because like you said, he likes his own things, and he's not into skating a lot of different stuff, you know, like you just said, he's picky like that, which is cool. It's a good thing. I'm not saying anything funny about it, just it's cool.
He knows what works, and he likes quality stuff to make sure it's going to give him what he needs back.
That's cool. Sort of so I just saw this video that what's the name of that? Sorry. Yes, obviously. I just saw this video that Damn Goods put it last year, and you said in that video when they presented Wish frames that you guys would come with different color frames. Do you still have that in mind, or after being in the market for 1 year, you end up realizing that you don't need it? I'm just asking.
Yeah, I am working on getting some colors made. We got black and white. We may just have one more color. I'm trying to do two. You know, it's a thing where, you know, you can't. there's for plastics, there's all these minimum order quantities. It's like, you know, so you have to buy more than what you need for the first run, and then you got to kind of look long term. But if you look too long term when you're just starting out, it doesn't quite make sense.
And
so we're trying to have a third color in the mix at least, and maybe a fourth. But you know, like I want to make turquoise frames. Not that many people are going to buy turquoise, so I'm probably not going to make those. But you know, a couple people would really appreciate it. You know, I would
dark
like
gray.
It, so, it just depends. So yeah, companies that have made lots of different color frames, man, it's really cool to have those options.
It's hard.
But you know, a lot of them end up sitting on the shelf for
and
a
at
really
the
long
same time, the
yeah.
thing is, like, a lot of people listening to this, they don't know. I don't know about it right now. I know that a few years ago, when you used to make different colors, they use the plastics would shrink differently, so you would need to adapt the molds to have the frames made in those colors, or to have the boots made in those colors. I know that used to happen a few years ago, and that was one of the main reasons why it was so hard to make different colored materials. But probably the technology changed a bit, so I don't know about it now. Do you know?
Yeah, it depends on what material you're using, and how well they can match it with like a color concentrate, or if they make the material colored ahead of time. So far, we haven't had any issue with any kind of shrinking or anything. But yeah, when you start mixing, you know, something that's colored that's not the same material that you're using as the base part, yeah, some weird things can start to happen just from the chemistry. But we try to keep that, you know, that's the biggest thing, is to make sure to maintain the mechanical properties of the plastic. So we use as little color as possible to get the color.
Yeah, that's what happened with wheels.
You know?
Usually, at least most of the wheels, they have better quality when they're natural urethane color, which is more like that. Not really white. It's like that milky color, which is just weird. Out of curiosity, what frame were you skating before making your own frame?
I would say, I think there was a couple of them in there. The one I was skating immediately before was a Seba
the 64s?
Frame. And it's like the CJ. It's a CJ Walsmore frame. But I was just skating them with, let's see, probably like, I think I was just skating with the 60 millimeter CJ wheels that came with them, actually. But you can put up to 64. And I was skating those anti-rocker. And that was before that I was skating the Caltic 60 millimeter.
Flat or
frame.
anti-rocker? Okay.
Flat.
Okay, so that's why you were using those blue frames on those blue bolts that I believe they're Caltic bolts. The first prototype frame that you had some blue bolts. Yeah,
they were the turquoise bolts from the Caltic.
I saw that and I recognized them right away.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's the Steven Swain version.
It is. There was a video that came out yesterday of Michel Prado. Have you seen it? Michel Prado. You know who Michel Prado is, right? He's that guy from. He's from Brazil, but he lives in Barcelona. The guy that had the accident last year, and he's now on Caltic.
Yeah.
And there was a video that came out yesterday, and he was skating with those frames with the blue bolts, and that's what I realized about your bolts on the sample frame. So
that was the set of 7 of 8 millimeter axles that I had when I started designing at the time. They're the most universal 8 millimeter axles, that are on a lot of frames come with those, or that
like
similar style.
Kind of like the same.
Yeah.
So I didn't get the frames yet. So, I'm waiting on my frames to be here anytime soon. I'm going to Brazil in like 1 week. Hopefully they'll come before, and I'll be able to bring them. I have no idea. I'm excited, and I'm excited because, like, going straight to the point, what's been happening with me lately is that I've been skating so much with big wheels that when I get in the park and I put my smaller wheels, and when I'm even calling smaller wheels to the AN72s, it's not. I know it's not smaller wheels, but when I put those skates, somehow I'm not having as much fun as I used to. I don't know if it's just me, if it's just like, like sometimes you go through phases. I have no idea what it is. And I know that and I still do skate a lot with those new Kaiser 3 wheels Trimax frames. I don't know if you've seen those. The big, they're like 110s and I use 100s. And I love skating with those because I'm a lot more into sliding on the wheels than really grinding. So I've been having a lot of fun with those, and I'm excited about your frames to try it. And I believe they're going to be super fun, especially because I have a new ball right outside my shop, which is going to be done hopefully when I'm back from Brazil. But I just want to know, how is the plastic on your frames? Is it hard? Is it soft? What type of wheel options are people using in it? Like, is a lot of people using natural rocker, or is there anyone? There was someone that made a question on Facebook. Is it possible to use anti-rocker on that? I have no idea. I don't think it would make sense, but
it wouldn't really make sense. Let's see. I'll try to answer more. The plastic is pretty hard. It's about as hard as any other plastic. It's something I selected that should wear pretty reasonably, sort of in tune with your sole plate as you develop a backslide groove. One thing I was looking at and trying to select the plastic, I was looking for plastic that had these friction reducing additives, and you can get them, but it ends up the material properties degrade, so you have to thicken the part, and then they become
and don't they lose memory
heavier.
Somehow? Because there was something that used to happen with those UHMV. I think that's the thing. Like the Omer Weissing frames, somehow they were so hard that if you tight the bolts too much, they would lose memory, and that happens a lot with like some prototype stuff when it's done with that type of material. But I don't know about the ones that you're saying now, so I'm just asking.
Yeah, so those are. I mean, there's some materials they have more like a Teflon injected into them as well. And they slide really good on everything, but yeah, it ends up getting heavier. They're more brittle. Something like UHMW, it doesn't quite have the same tensile strength as like a nylon plastic, but obviously they slide really well. So there's always a combination. You want to make the part stiff so it's responsive. So you add fiberglass to the plastic, and the fiberglass acts like little spider legs grabbing all the tiny cracks and stuff on whatever you're sliding. So, it kind of increases friction a little bit until you get a nice surface on there. And especially on, raw metal coping and stuff, a lot of times frames don't slide very well because it's the fiberglass that's in there that's actually making contact with the metal surface. About it.
That's cool.
So if you can get away with less fiberglass content, it helps, but it changes how the part behaves and it changes the response.
Yeah, because the fiberglass is supposed to make it a lot stiffer, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go to the stiffness after. I'm going to let you finish whatever you were saying, all the questions that I made, and I already have another question about stiffness. I'm sorry.
So, wheel combinations. So that's what it is. It's a 72 millimeter wheel outside, so I wanted to make sure it has good stiffness so you get response and you're not getting a lot of flex like if you're standing on one wheel doing a toe roll or something. So yeah, people have been using all sorts of different wheel combinations. It's designed around 7260. I was riding a 7261 with the Dave Bling God's wheel for a while, which I really enjoyed. It gives you a little bit more rocker. Oh man, I forgot the guy's name, but just recently someone was telling me they had it set up, I think, 68, 60, 58, 68. And so it's kind of like a natural rocker, like the Wizard frame. Other people, they didn't want to do a sole plate mod, so they're using like a 65 millimeter outer wheel and a 54 millimeter inner. And so that gives you what I call the banana rocker, more close to a hockey blade. And I don't know. I mean, I really prefer 7260 because the agility that you get moving around and
no wheel
just
bite?
Rolling, and with no wheel bite. I mean, that's one of the things is try to make the groove so big and keep the frame walls straight along the entire length of the frame, and then that way, when you lean over to get onto your boot, you're not getting any wheel bite. And it works, it works really well with like I would say a medium-sized sole plate. If you get, I don't know, just my preference, like the Seba sole plates are pretty skinny. The V13s are pretty skinny. I kind of like carbon USD sole plate. And then I was skating USD 7s, which I really liked as well, but I kind of feel like they were too wide. So there's kind of like a really good sweet spot in there of a medium width sole plate. It really works well with the chassis. And then one of the other things is, where we have the, sort of the wheel bite protection coming down around the wheels. I worked with Miguel quite a bit of feedback from him to make it so it's not immediately giving you a
Yes, that's what I was going to ask you. So you're like, but is it still doable to do wheel slides? Like wheel slides, not a SES slide?
Yeah, so if you use a 7260, you can do wheel slides instead of just a SES slide. And if you use a smaller combination of wheels, like you start getting to 6554, you get into more of a SES slide right away, kind of like a traditional anti-rocker frame with big frame walls, kind of like the Kaiser Fluid. I'd skated those for a few years. And I would always, I'd get those new set of wheels. I would go out just into the street and kind of skate around in circles, dragging my foot
forward power slides.
Torn down a little. Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Okay.
Just to shave off the edges a little bit because you could really SES slide easy right out of the box. And then what was the other question? Can you skate them anti-rocker, right? You should be able to. I think it defeats the purpose quite a bit. Yeah, but like
imagine if you go like 54s in the middle, like you said, and if you go 64s with 54s in the middle, just if you like the length of the frame, sorry, 72s in the front and back, and 54s in the middle. You still get the length of the frame, and it's you can call it anti-rocker.
Yeah, it's technically anti-rocker. Yeah. I mean, you could do it like that. Yeah. You definitely. I mean, that's one of the things that's nice about the flat part of it and having some rocker is the mobility, and that's what drove me to make this was skating an anti-rocker frame right before it was like I can't turn left or right.
But especially with such long frames should be weird. Huh? With like going anti-rocker.
Yeah.
But at the same time.
Yeah, but it really makes it more like you're on a set of rails. If you like that feeling of stability, so. You can do like a 72-58, and then it feels really, really flat, like you don't really have any rocker at all. And technically, it's a little anti-rocker, but when you think about the compression of the urethane
and even the frame, ends up going like giving you a little bit, so all the wheels will touch, right? Especially at such a long frame.
Yeah.
Okay, but the thing is, like, if you would skate anti-rocker the way I was saying, like 72, 54, not that I skate anti-rocker, but if you skate like that, you would have an advantage compared to the traditional anti-rocker, which is like, a lot of people hate anti-rocker because when you go downstairs, those plastic super hard wheels don't help you. But if you use regular 64s, they might still roll, so that could be an advantage.
Yeah, that could be. That's one of the things. You go over like a convex surface with your anti-rockers and you'll slip out.
I know what that is. Like the amount of times that you fall on the rail or you don't land the rail, but then you get on the stairs and then the fall is worse, just not because you missed the rail, but because you couldn't roll down the stairs or anti-rockers, something like that.
Yeah.
So I had 2 more questions here. I've been trying to write. I usually don't write, which is something new for me, but I'm trying not to interrupt you, which is really hard because, like, I don't know if I ever said it, like I'm like hyperactive and I just can't, man. I just can't stop. I'm here and I'm just scratching myself trying not to interrupt you, but I'm trying.
Hey, no problem,
I'm really trying. So there's 2 questions that I got here. One of them is, every time that some brand does something like new, there will always be another brand coming like, hey, they're copying my ideas, they're doing something like I did. I know that happened a lot when K2 made the long frames, and then they did that kind of like the H block going a little bit over the middle wheels. And then Caltic, a lot of people said that they were copying Caltic frames, and I know Connor from Caltic. I love those guys. I know them since the beginning of the brand when they used to make just clothing, not even any skate parts. But it happens a lot. It's kind of like something common. Did you ever felt anything like that with Wish? Some like people saying that this is trying to copy here, trying to copy there, or people have been respecting you since the beginning and really like supporting what you do? And I don't know. I guess you know what
Yeah, I think like one of the first things I posted up on the Instagram account, I think someone said like, "Oh, it's the Caltic version 4" or something like that.
That was original.
And yeah, and I can see where they're coming with that. I mean, certainly, I think Caltic was, it was innovative by putting the wheel cup around the wheels. Let's see, the Kaiser Element frame didn't have quite the same thing, but it had the H block that would stick down. And then Able frames a long time ago for flat,
and
they had
even
the H block that stuck
before that,
really
you
low.
had the first version of the ground controls. The first version of ground controls, they had that.
Yeah, they had. Yeah, that's right. They had that H block that stuck out too. And so I feel like it's a little bit of an evolution of what more can we do with with molding the plastic, with the different contours of the frame. And yeah, I just been, always been looking forward to ever since, like, I don't know, 1996 or something. Like, man, wouldn't it be cool if you just had this huge groove in the middle of the underframe and wheels on the outside, instead of having to compromise by putting small wheels. And so, with a lot of different frames I had skated, they tend to taper in a lot in the middle.
What do you mean by
frame.
that? I'm sorry, I don't know what that means. It's maybe my English.
So like near where the groove or the H block is, they get a little skinnier instead of staying the same. And that was one of the things that I always had trouble with some of those frames. It's like, man, this is so close, but because it tapers in here, I like seem to get wheel.
But you know why they made it, right?
Comfortable. What's it? Or, I mean, I guess it locks in well.
If you make the middle slimmer, that will allow you to do royales or torque tricks and keeping the same angle, because usually you go lower. So think about it. If you go lower with the center of the frame, and if it at the same time it's thicker, then you would need to bend your foot more. It's kind of like a way to cheat.
Yes.
So.
No, I agree. Yeah, you got to bend your foot more. But I would say also, that's not so bad. I mean, we used to ride like huge tall frames that had like an inch or maybe not inch, like a half an inch space between the boot and the top part of the frame.
And you know what? Like Ken Welsh said, you can always use the make your own groove technology like Neem did.
That's right.
No, basically because like you said, it's thicker, but then after grinding, you're gonna end up making it with your own groove, which is like the make your own groove technology is kind of like a funny way to say it, obviously. But the truth is, once you make your own groove, because everyone ends up grinding differently, then it's gonna fit just perfect. Like in theory, for me at least. I haven't tried it, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I did. That was one of the intents of the design. The way the H block is designed here is that after you use it a while and get it grooved in, and it should start to be a lot more comfortable. And what I've been doing actually, since I've just been testing so many materials and different pairs of frames and stuff, I just do the cheater way, go out on the curb and put the groove in.
What about the Dremel, man? That's the old man's way. Like, it's faster.
Yeah, I don't know. It takes me back to the early days of like, oh man, I need to get a groove on the, like I just got this brand new pair of blades.
And then, how did you used to explain that to your parents? Because that happened to me a few times.
I don't think they quite
understood. Yeah, it was the same with me. Like with me, like I remember when I was like 16. So I did really good in school, and my father, I used to be part of the Portuguese speed skating team. So I went on a speed skate representing Portugal to Italy. So my father, as the coach, the Portuguese coach that had some connections with K2, to buy me a pair of K2 Fatty Pros, because we didn't add them in Portugal. So he bought the skates and he had them for me like a surprise. So when I got home, I had a pair of K2 Fatty Pros, and I was there. The guy bought the skates without I even see them. I don't know what he did, whatever. So I got home, I got the pair of skates. First thing that I did, not that the K2s would need to make a groove, but the first thing, like my father gave me the skates right out of the box, that I was on the sidewalk. How do you explain that to your parents? It was weird. But then my father came with the best idea. So my father once came to me and said, like, wait, if you need a groove, let's do it perfectly. So my father used to work with metal. So I remember that was when I had my first pair of rollerblades with UFS frames. He said, like, these frames, you're gonna do it differently. So he took me to his factory, and he got like a tube, like a rail, a piece of rail, really, really odd.
Yeah.
And it was the exact same size of the rails, like 2 inches. And then all we need to do is like just slide it once on that, and then like it hits the metal, but with the perfect groove. But wait, I thought it was amazing. Seriously, it was the only time that I could frontside torque with TRSs, because the first time when the TRS first came out, the sole plate used to be soft, but on those skates I could do frontside torques so good. But after 2 days of skating, they broke. And the reason why they broke was they were not made for that type of groove, and also that way of making the groove was not the best, because you were playing with different temperatures, and that made the frame more fragile. So that's how I learned my lesson: go to the curb and just grind the curb, and then find a way to explain your parents. So, Cletus, tell me something. Did you ever skate the ground control high-low frames?
I did, yeah. And I remember taking wheels on my dad's belt sander and putting them on like an 8mm, like it's a big 8mm key that came with the Chris Edwards Daytonas, but I still have. It has like a star wrench on the end of it, and I put the set of 2 wheels on there and grind them down on the belt sander so I could make myself middle wheels.
That's amazing. Wait, frames. So you're telling me that you made your first Wish frames like a few years before, when you didn't have access to like factories and whatever?
No. So the ground
yes,
control.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Because like,
I mean, I skated those, but it was really hard to get middle wheels for them because I think only ground control made the right size.
I don't think ground control made wheels, did they? It was a 4x4, yeah, 4x4.
It was 4x4, yeah, 4x4. They were the ones that made them, and so, when you needed a new set, it seemed like they were scarce, or maybe I started skating them a little after they had originally come out. But yeah, so I would take my other wheels and wear them down on the belt sander so they would fit in the middle there.
So they did the Apple move. They did something that you had to use their own material.
Right.
Okay. And tell me something. Coming from like being an engineer, I every time that I post, that happened with me, every time that I made a video, I post something about the 3-wheel frames from Kaiser, the Trimax frames, which I love, and I really, really believe that they're stiff. It's hard for someone who never skated such frame to understand that I'm saying that a plastic frame is stiff enough for what you need. It's seriously stiff. It's not I know of some aluminum frames which are softer than that one, but some people don't get it. So they made me the same question the whole time. Why didn't they make an aluminum frame? So my question to you, just what they do to me. Why didn't you make, as an engineer, why didn't you make an aluminum structure frame like you said, like the Kaiser Elements as an example? Why did you choose to do plastic if a lot of people just say that aluminum is more responsive?
So I chose to do plastic because I think it's more simple, and it's kind of a manufacturing decision. Is if you want to make a lot of these, it ends up being overall less expensive to make them out of plastic. Also, a one piece plastic frame, if you choose the right material, can be just as stiff. As an aluminum underbody or an all aluminum frame. And it can be even better. There are some plastics out there that are even better than aluminum, but they're really expensive. So, there's a trade-off, because if you're doing an aluminum frame, machine time is expensive. I don't have a CNC machine in 5 axes.
And aluminum can also be like a marketing move, because you can also get like some cheap aluminum, which is super soft.
Yes. Yeah.
So, like you said, like, it's up to the material that you choose for your own stuff. So I guess that's the most important thing. Tell me, selling products. Have you been selling? I have no idea, man. This is like curiosity. And I had this question with Tom Iser, and he ended up telling me he doesn't know where the skates go to. It was nothing public. I had a conversation with Tom Iser in the Berlin Marathon, and we were talking about how Rollerblade sells skates in the USA, because he says like he doesn't see that much people on inline skates, but the truth is there's a lot of Rollerblade skates being sold in USA. What happens with Wish? Are you selling a lot? I know it's different because it's like an aggressive skate niche product, but have you been selling a lot of products in the USA? It's mostly out of America. I have no idea.
So far, it's been mostly in the USA, but it's probably like 35-40% international sales. Just based on the quantity that I had. I wasn't able at the first run to make the quantity I wanted, so working on making more before the end of the year.
How many did you produce at first?
We produced, I think, something like 360 pairs. We were trying to produce 700.
Okay, that was the goal at first. Okay, so you're producing
Yeah.
400 more,
Cool.
something like that.
Yeah, we think we're gonna try to make more than that, so we have them on hand for the future. I hope, and it seems like it's kind of picking up popularity a little bit. And one of the things with that is there's people that have gotten the pair, or say like won a pair in a contest, and contacted me or talked to me about it. He's like, yeah, I used them once or twice, and then I went back to anti-rocker, and he's like, but now I can't stop using them. Like, they're just so much fun. I can move around, I can grind. Like, they kind of do everything that they want to do. And when people tell me that, I'm like, that's awesome. That's exactly why I made it. It's
fun.
It can bring a little bit more fun into your session. And if you want to go out and get like super technical and want to ride an anti-rocker, you can do that too. I mean, there's so many variations. I would say no one needs to be limited to one thing or another.
And another question: from those 350 that you made, I've seen that a lot of people got. You just said that some people got some in competitions. I've seen that there was this guy last week that his skates got stolen, and you send him a new pair of frames. That's amazing from you. It's like, the question here is, how many of those 350 did you invest in your own marketing? Because it's, for such a small company, it must be hard for you. I know it because I don't have any company. I have like a little shop, and I know like the amount of people that always comes here and they try to hustle a pair of frames or a full skate or whatever. You try to help everyone because you really love this, but sometimes it's hard for you to see where it's your business and you really need it. So you invested all your money on that. You can give stuff away to everyone. And people sometimes don't understand. So
that's right.
The question is,
I mean, yeah, I'd have to look at my inventory sheet, which I try to keep up to date. I mean, at least, let's see, probably at least 50 pairs of that, but some of those weren't necessarily from the production run. I have a lot of samples and things, that I've given to people that ride for me or want to help me test some things out. But, the big thing is also hardware goes along with that. So having a stock of hardware and giving away so many sets of hardware, then I don't have them to sell a complete version of the frame in the future. So it's been a good amount of what we've made that's sort of like given away as a prize or sample or that was Dante that was at Blade Cup. I mean, that situation was like you buy an ice cream cone, you turn around and drop it.
That is. It's
store. It's like, I'll give you
but at the same time, for you, like, that's amazing that you did it. But at the same time, it's like it's still your investment. It's your money. Like, you had to pay for that frame twice. So in the end, you ended up getting no profit. And it's amazing.
Kind of what I do with that is, in a situation like that, as I take, what it cost me to make the frame, I take that from my personal bank account and put it in my business bank account to make sure that I'm not just like giving it away and have nothing back to show for it or haven't really paid for it. So obviously less cost than
okay. So you bought
retail,
your own frame, basically,
but still. Exactly.
How many of your own frames have you bought? When people go and like their own stuff on Facebook.
A good amount. I try to be diligent about that because I don't want to look at the business account and go, wait a minute.
I guess you've been you've been on Facebook too much. When people go and like their own posts, it's like the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so the brand is called Wish. Why?
That's a pretty common question.
Because I wouldn't say Wish. I've been saying Oysi. I don't know why, but it's just.
No, that's how it looks. And that's okay too. I mean, my thing is if people know what it is and enjoy it, they can call it whatever they need to. But so, my full name is Cletus Aloysius Kuhn. I was named after both of my mom's dad and my dad's dad. My dad's dad, his name was Aloysius, so that's my middle name. It's a Latin origin name. So in writing down on pieces of paper hundreds of different names of what I could call the company, I finally came up with that, and decided I'd just take the four middle letters from my name that are pronounced Wish.
But is it exactly how you spell your name, or like it's spelled differently with the same sound?
Oh yeah, it's spelled Aloysius. So the Oysi part is Aloysius.
That's cool. And the logo, who made it? Was it you?
Yeah, this is actually a font that I must have been looking at since like before the year 2000 or around there. Of just like, I really like this font. It's this old sort of 50s
It kind of reminds me when I see those cars, like really old cars, like I think it's like a Cadillac and stuff like that, kind of like with that style of font, maybe.
Yeah, like a old Ford Galaxy, I think.
I don't know a lot about cars. I'm bad.
So,
the only wheels are skates and bikes.
And so yeah, with that and the way the letters were, it worked quite nicely, and I was like, that's pretty happy. It's for me, it's like it's nothing that's like super in your face, but it's probably memorable. And then, people not being able to pronounce it or not knowing what it's called, I think has actually made it stick in their minds
like
a little
Shadow.
more sometimes. So yeah. So I had this conversation when I was in Fort Collins with this guy, Ryan, that was skating, and he kept telling me, oh man, I want to try these new Shadow skates. Like, they look really cool. And he was telling me about them. I'm like, man, I haven't heard of those. The whole time he's telling me Shadow, I'm thinking in my head, X-Shadow. That's what I was kind of like, X-Shadow. And I never made the connection until like 2 years later after that, And so I thought, it didn't, me not knowing the name didn't undermine how good Shadows were, as a product. So I was like, well, that's all right. It'll come around. People will figure it out if they need to.
And
I always think about that. I'm just like, man, I can't believe I didn't understand that first.
you might have problems with watching my stuff a lot of time because my English sometimes it's not, let's say, the best. Anyway, keep going. You were saying, like, when I saw that little video from Damn Good, there was you were saying that you've been skating a lot of recreational skates. Did you ever thought about making a recreational skate frame or any recreational skate product?
I actually have been working on something to that magnitude over the last year, in conjunction with someone else, and hopefully it will come to fruition, but we're not sure.
Would it be a new product?
Yeah.
A new brand?
Yeah, it'd be a brand new product. No, it'd be under a Wish brand, but probably another frame. But more aimed at recreational type of skate.
What do you think about UFS and 165 and Trinity and all that stuff? Would you keep UFS? Would you make another frame UFS and call it a recreational frame, or you would need to change the mount to a different mount?
Yeah, it would be UFS, but more recreational, because you can still get, even with UFS, you can still get the same geometry that you need for a more recreational frame. The UFS system is based on a flat mounting, but as long as you have the flat mounting, you can do whatever you want underneath that.
But have you tried a recreational boot, like a raised heel?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, definitely, and I enjoy them. I had an old pair of K2s that didn't even come with a cup. Man, this must have been about 8 years ago.
K2s are still super flat somehow. Something with a raised heel, like differently. Have you tried it?
And yeah, now I have a pair of Seba FR80s, and they have the raised heel rec frame, and yeah, I like it. It feels good, and that's how it should feel in your flat bottom boot if you have the right heel pad in there too.
But the heel lock, it's not the same usually on the other skates. Somehow, it's hard to get the same heel lock. Yeah. I know that with the Sebas, a lot of people say that they really like the heel lock on the CJs. I haven't tried them, so I don't really know.
Yeah, just on the aggressive CJ boot. Yeah, it holds you in there really.
But would you
really
ever
well.
think of making
Really.
like another different frame, like with another different mount, or you want to stick? Wish will always stick with UFS.
Oh no, man! I wish.
That's good.
See, I wish we could do something better than what UFS is right now. I think there's some better options. And man, the way frames used to be riveted onto the boot, and the way Solomon frames used to be. I mean, there was no restriction on where you want to place the wheels. That was, so not sure what It's like the advantage of UFS to change frames is really good, and certainly that has just advanced the different things because people have more opportunity. They can make a frame that works for any boot, so it's more worth it to make it.
So why don't you make a Trinity frame?
But
you could make a Trinity plastic frame. Draw one, and I'll show it to Powerslide. Maybe they'll buy your thing. I don't know.
Like an aggressive one?
Why not,
aggressive
man?
Trinity frame?
Imagine like an aggressive, like there's a new skate, man. It's not new for anyone. The catalog is online. There's a hard boot skate called Powerslide Next. I can show it to you. I can't put it here, but I can send you the image of the skates. I'm getting the skates this week. So why don't you try one?
Yeah, I'm interested to try it. Let's see. I'm gonna look.
Should I send it now? Let me see if I can send it now. I'll send it to you later. I can't send it to you now. Is that okay? I'll send it to you later. I promise you. I'll send it to you right when we finish this, and maybe that could be a good one. Why not? Because it's the thing is basically what you said. Like the front part is like the wings. In the back, you don't really need those wings that much. Why? Because usually you want the raised heel a little bit. You don't want the skate to be like that's yeah. You don't need the back to be that low, but maybe that could be a good option. Why not? And if there's like more and more skates coming out, that could be a good one.
Yeah, I'll have to look at that. I haven't tried them yet. I've heard good things about them.
Yeah, I like it. I like how responsive they can be, and that's something that I guess like Joey did something the other day. Like I don't know if it was a podcast or any other video. That he was just saying something as when you have your sole plate connected, like screwed or riveted or whatever to the boot, it's completely different if you're using a UFS frame. But now like what happens a lot is like people is using a UFS frame, and then in between the boot and the frame, there's just a piece of plastic which is not riveted or screwed to anything. It's just like something in the middle. And that if the UFS frame is already not too wide, that's why I'll go there after. Like that's why the downhill guys even use more than one screw to fix the boot, the frame to the boot. Then if you have a piece of plastic in the middle, it makes it even more. So it just, I don't know. That's why I like the Aeon so much. It's just like solid. That's what it is.
Yeah, that idea, like with the Aeons, is just all one piece. I mean, and I tried on Lawrence Ingram. He was out here. His Aeons, and yeah, I mean it's just like you can feel
but it's try the 72s then
just by skate,
right?
Yeah, he had the 72s. I didn't skate, like I didn't grind any ledges in them or anything really. Just kind of skating
solid.
around.
I love it. I love how solid they are.
Very.
And now there's the 80 coming out too. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've seen that. That looks like it should be.
It is.
It's
like it's hard for grinding. It's not as easy for grinding, but maybe something like also like. I don't know if you've seen what Dustin Rubeski did last year. He cut a piece of the Aeons, like the old bottom part, kind of like a cup, and he used it as a sole plate. Basically, the whole frame. Have you seen that? That's actually amazing because basically, imagine if you make a frame that the whole frame has a sole plate included. It's like a whole sole piece, kind of like also like the Old Roches stuff. I think Old Roches had some stuff like that. You have a whole frame.
Yeah, it was like a
sole and frame piece, and that looked cool. He put it on some Salomon boots, but I don't know. I haven't tried it.
Nice. I mean, that was one of the things, like when the USD Carbon 2s came out, I first got those. When was that? Maybe like 2009 or something. Just the improvement of the rigid carbon boot compared to a normal plastic boot. I mean, the response and direct feel was like improved by easily like 100% better. Just it was so much better just in that alone. And so yeah, I mean, if you can have the sole plate attached to the boot and the frame all as one piece, I mean, just connected together, it's just night and day difference.
It's so basically the thing with me and carbon skates is like with aggressive skates, I don't really have that much trouble because they've been lower. So the thing is, in 2004, 2005, I broke my feet, like my leg in 3 places. Since then, I got like these weird foot, and some of the skates, I just can't tighten them that much. So if I use like an aggressive skate, because the boot is a little bit lower and it's a lower frame, so you don't need to tighten it as much as you would need to tighten like on a free skate or as a recreational skate, it's okay. But when I put a recreational skate, usually most of them, if it's a carbon boot, they hurt my feet. That's why I've been using most of the times hard boot, like the Imperial or the Seba that you just said, something like that. And even the Power Slide has this Trinity skate called the Tau, which is amazing and everyone loves it. But because of my foot, I just can't put it. Like on one foot it fits perfect, the other one, the one that I broke, it just doesn't fit. So about a month ago, I finally found the Power Slide carbon skate that fits me, which is the Hardcore Evo. And that Hardcore Evo is like a carbon skate, and it's like such a different experience. And I've been skating so many different skates, but skating recreational with a real proper carbon boot, it's so different. The amount of control that you have in the skates, and I'm not even talking about that Trinity mount, because they're supposed to come out with this skate in Trinity. So I'm excited about that. And that's what you were just saying, like the carbon, like going from carbon, plastic to carbon makes a huge difference, especially if you have the right boot. It's
definitely. And I mean, just that step, and then if we could somehow with aggressive skating get the sole plate connected to the boot in a nice way that allows a universal system.
Did you ever thought of a system, of a different system? Did you ever start drawing?
I've had a few ideas, and I guess the biggest thing to overcome is like I think there's plenty of ideas of a good way to connect the sole plate and the frame to the boot well, but how do you do that and convince everybody else to do it as well? Or you just start doing it and say, well, we're not going to worry about it.
Have you ever thought of something like that, the sole plate, instead of having the sole plate coming in between, the sole plate just comes after? Instead of having like I don't know if it's doable, but instead of having a universal frame, having a universal 2-piece sole plate, something like that, something that comes from both sides and just attach like from the sides of the boot, and then poof. That makes a lot more sense. And then because then it's connected to the boot, and then if all boots have that same bolt pattern, then you still have a universal system. Now I guess the question is, do you want to undo 6 bolts to change your sole and frame, or 2? And then the question is, how many people change their frames?
6 would be okay.
If you have like a proper setup, like something like your frame, like you said, people can just cruise around on them. They can do like the Robbie Pitts tricks, like to swivel around. They can do grinding tricks. They can do basically everything, and they still have fun, right? Why would they need to change the frame then?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, I don't know. Going that way, like after this question. Sorry, go for it.
So you need to change the frame so you can experiment.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing.
That's kind of.
So after this question, what do you think of the Razor skates, the new ones, the Shift?
That's the same question as how often do you need to change it. But I think that it's a smart idea because it opens up people from aggressive skating discipline into other areas where they say, oh, well, I already got this boot. I might as well grab this 3-wheel frame, or I can put on an 80 millimeter frame. Still my aggressive boots, still got a sole plate, so that's cool. And then they can get around, just try some either, I don't know, lots of words for it. Free skating, recreational skating. And honestly, I mean, that's the whole thing that has drawn everybody to it anyway, is like being able to move around with wheels on your feet. And, I was part of it too. We just got so confined to, I'm going to stand here behind my friend, and when he's done, I'm going to go grind, and I'm going to come back.
Like in a line.
I have to do a top sole there, and then I have to do a front side over here, and whatever's in between, I don't care. I just have to do those two things. So I think it's a good idea. I think it's going to open up people's eyes to more things. And if there's ever an opportunity to use the same boot and change the mounting system for a frame or sole plate, they already have that established. They don't have to.
That's what we're talking about right now. It's basically the universal sole plate, and then the frame. You could have like a different mounting system, because the thing is, right now you still have the UFS, and you still have that little thing that we just said. It could easily turn or bend a little bit to the sides and whatever. But the good thing about it is, like, you don't need to change the frames. Like you said, you don't need the 6 bolts. You're gonna need more sole plates, that's for sure. But but that's, I guess I would prefer investing a little bit more and having more sole plates, and then you have the proper setup then, right? I guess.
Yep. And then I think you have more options for placement of wheels within the frame. And I think that's been a big limiting factor with the UFSs, and it's been kind of hard to overcome. I mean, you want bigger split, but you got to make the frame taller in order to avoid the bolts. And it's been such a hindrance of, like with what I've done with this chassis, it's kind of pushing the boundary of what can we do with UFS. And at the same time, I'm not selling as many frames as Ground Control or Kaiser Fluids or Create Originals. I mean, those things go like crazy all the time.
The main reason is because most of them, they come on stock skates. And if you could somehow have a deal with any of the brands that you could have your skates coming in any stock skate, like back in the day, I remember like some skates, I guess even USD had a skate like that, like the Billy O'Neill skate came with Create Originals frames. And Create Originals had nothing to do with Power Slide, or even like the Dominic Sagona skate came with Physic frames. That's hard to, like, nowadays somehow brands tend to close themselves to their own brands only, and they don't open that much to that type of partnerships, if you can say, collaborations. But that could help a lot of small brands. I don't know, but then
that would be awesome. That would be, I don't know, that requires someone having a boot sponsor. Yeah,
probably then probably you would need to have a team skater that instead of smiling is just good. No, but I'm not saying that your team skaters are not good. That's not what I'm saying. Like, if you, I don't know.
No, I know.
Okay. 2 questions more, and I keep going like this. Why do you call it chassis? It's funny. I think it's fun because it really is a chassis, and then in Portuguese we say chassis, which is basically the same. And I used to call it chassis as a quad skater when I used to speed skate on quads. So it's fun that in my opinion, it's funny that you still call it, but why? Why do you call it chassis?
So, kind of, it's kind of out of respect to what we are doing. I mean, we're not just saying, oh, here's some plastic, let's put it in a bunch of steel and melt it and just, oh, now we can rollerblade. It's, it's a very engineered process of design and everything. And so, like the chassis of a car is it's very fundamental to how the entire car is going to function or operate. And then the same thing here. I mean, the boot is great. The sole plate is good. You can't go anywhere without wheels, and the chassis is what holds the wheels and sort of supports the whole thing. It's not one piece doesn't work without the other sort of thing. But the chassis kind of dictates how the skate is going to feel when you ride. what kind of feedback you get from the wheels to your foot. And so it's kind of out of respect that's really what it is. It's an engineered piece of sporting equipment, that we're using. But I still call a frame most of the time anyway, because that's just how I grew up calling it a frame. And I think back to like when, I think it was in Chris Edwards' Daytonas came out, that line in the Dirks. I think those were maybe the first removable frame. And if you look through the booklet, I'm pretty sure it said how to remove the chassis. And we were just saying, we were saying chassis. What's a chassis? This is a funny word. And so it kind of is, it's kind of a little bit out of respect to that too, just remembering, man, I don't even know what this is. Can we just call it a frame? But it's designed for a specific purpose to help us enjoy what we like to do. So it's a little bit out of respect. And, then the other thing is call it just, inline skating chassis was also to be sort of, very neutral in what the purpose is supposed to be. It's not like the Wish aggressive skating frame or the Wish rec skating frame. It's an inline skating chassis, and what you do with it is inline skate. How you inline skate is very much up to you. There's just so many different options of what you can do. And what this one lends itself to you to be able to do. So kind of named it to be a little bit generic.
I have two questions more now. Now I had one more only, but then it just made me create another one. But I'm going to keep that one. Let me just write it here so I don't forget, me being organized. No. So you were talking about support, and that has to do with the question that I was going to make you right after. So don't you think, going like differently, do you think that we need any other universal piece on the skate? Like, wheels are universal mainly, and there's the UFS mounting system. But you were talking about support. Don't you think there's any other part of the skate that would need to happen for the skates to be more supportive? And it seems like there's nothing universal out there like cuffs. Did you ever thought of making a cuff?
Not really. It seems like there's a good number of cuffs that are interchangeable across skates. But ultimately it's really like the ergonomic design of the boot and how the manufacturer wants the cuff to flex, so the pivot points are a little different.
And you think the height of the actual cuffs right now are perfect for the type of for the way that skating is developing nowadays? Because frames are getting longer and longer, and the type of tricks are somehow starting to need more support from the skate, in my opinion. It's like, it's not that much the little backslide or the fish rain, whatever. With time, people have been adjusting their tricks to higher frames and to more like to stiffer boots. It's more like about the way your whole body works, not just the way you bend your foot. But at the same time, tricks like Leon Bassin is doing, like those double toe rolls and stuff like that, if you don't have a higher cuff, a more supportive boot, you'll never be able to do stuff like that. And if you ever skied, and I'm sure that you've tried something like that, you know how much of a difference you can have from a cuff. Yes, it's a lot more restrictive for some stuff, but at the same time, for other type of tricks, can make it so different. You never thought about it then?
No, that's definitely, like, when I first used the Sebas, I think that was one of the things I noticed, is the cuffs is a lot higher than the average skater. And actually, I was using USD carbons before I got a pair of Sebas carbons. And there's definitely a big difference between the cuff heights and how the cuff flexes. But one thing about both of those is you can lace the boot all the way up on, onto your ankle as tight as you need. And I think that's that's very important. And then so you can lace that up tight, a little looser if you want a little loose, and then you can also adjust the cuff either tighter or looser depending on kind of what you're doing. Like if I'm just going out to sort of skate around, I usually have my cuff pretty tight. And then if I'm going to go out and actually do grinding or be in the skate park, I'll loosen it up a little bit. So there's some adjustment there. But yeah, I know what you mean. Like, but even for the same size boot, someone else's ankle will pivot just slightly differently than mine, just because of the way their muscles are working and everything. And I know on some of the rec skates that I have, you can actually change, I think within a few millimeters, the pivot point of the cuff. It just has a little grommet in there that you can
kind of like a rocket cuff.
And
there's some other skates with that. Like I think the first one was the Solomon's. I don't know. I think there's some brands still make it, and there's still other brands that will make it. So that's a cool thing. Okay.
Yeah.
And
there's just so many adjustments to get things just right for yourself, which is really cool. I think that's what's pushed blading forward in the last couple of years, is people like, well, I'm not quite happy with this, I'm going to modify it. I'm not quite happy with that, I'm going to modify it. And so, man, I think people are just getting more aware of what they want and what's out there and how to, customize things. I think that's really cool. And, even the UFS frame system, that aspect of it and other things, everything using 8mm hardware and the same threads, you can interchange so many different parts. You can experiment with a lot of things. It's really cool.
That's cool. But now, let's go back to what you just said. You said the inline skating chassis. I would need to go there.
Yeah.
You've been calling it the whole time. We've been talking for 1 hour and 10 minutes. You've been calling it the whole time rollerblading, but then you said that you call it inline skating chassis. Why inline skating? Why rollerblading? I know that in America, most of the people call it rollerblading. It's like the only way for you guys to explain to the rest of the world what it is. But I don't know if you saw it. About a few months ago, I made a video about it. It's obviously my opinion, and I'm not gonna say that one or the other it's the right way to call it. But the truth is, in 2017, almost 2018, Google is so important in the way that the more we call the same name to something, the more power we give to it. And it's like, when we call it rollerblading, that's my opinion, obviously. When we call it rollerblading, we're usually referring to a certain type of skating. But then all the speed skaters, they will call it inline skating, or inline hockey, inline skating, which hockey is not that big, at least right now, but it used to be. And like the slalom skaters, it's inline skating. We tend to try to, as an aggressive skater, a lot of times we tend to try to be away from that inline skating thing. But don't you think if we all call it the same name, we're giving more power to what we do, and that can help whatever we're doing?
Yeah, it would be nice if there was a common name. I know, partly for me, I just say rollerblading because that's just how, I grew up, the decade or so of skating that I've had, just calling it rollerblading, it just stuck in my head.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but that's just it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, a lot of times I just, I don't call up my friend and say, hey, you want to go rollerblading? Hey, let's go skate.
I say skating the whole time, but I just think it's funny. Even Chris Effie, I have so much respect for that guy, so much. And it's last year when he won the Nitro games. In the same interview, he called it inline skating and rollerblading. And a lot more people do it. And I'm not saying it's wrong, it's because that's what we are used to. But for someone that is not into what we are, for every kid that is just watching that on TV, even if it didn't play live on TV, or for some kid that just plays that on YouTube, they don't know that inline skating and rollerblading, it's the same thing. So they don't even know what we're talking about sometimes, because some people... It's true, English talking people, in the shop. Some people come here to the shop and they say, I want some skates. And I say, I ask them, do you want inline skates or do you want roller skates? And they say, no, I want rollerblades. No, it's the same. And we're talking about a country where people speaks English. So it's just somehow I think it's confusing people. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, inline skating, I think it really is the technical term. I think honestly, it's confusing even to ourselves, because we just are, I think we understand it no matter what I say to my friend, any of those three different words, they know what I'm talking about. And I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the best way to communicate it to other people is. Usually when I talk to someone who is like just a stranger or something, I usually say, oh yeah, well I rollerblade. They say, oh really? Like, what do you do? I'm like, well, you know what skateboarders do in half pipes? That's kind of what I do, but I don't rollerblade. That's like the best way to describe it. And then they say, oh wow, I didn't know people do that.
Yeah,
like, yeah,
it was
really
it
fun.
was the biggest sport when the first X Games came out. It was the one that made people watch the X Games.
Yeah.
Before the 900.
Yeah, that's been a big shift in how to explain it to people, but yeah, I don't know, and it's not necessarily to say like, oh, I don't want to call it inline skating because it gives them a different picture of what's in their head, but certainly around here, you say rollerblading and people, oh, okay, well, four wheels in a line, I know exactly what that is, but it's such a broad term, I don't know exactly what he's talking about, and then so kind of define it a little bit more, but. Man, I don't know. It's a tough question.
All good. Okay, I guess like we're coming to an end. It's getting late for you. For me, it's like 10 a.m. It's like I need to start working too, other than this. Okay, so it was really nice talking to you, and I hope to see you anytime soon. And I don't know, if you ever think of coming to Africa,
great. Thanks for having me.
You know where to find me, Cape Town.
Yeah, actually, my sister was just there on a Peace Corps thing, and now she's headed back. She was down
cool.
there.
Did she enjoy it or what?
Yeah, she had a really good time. Had a really good experience living there, and now she's actually traveling with some friends she met there, kind of all around the world before she comes back.
Okay, so if you ever want to follow her steps, if you ever want to come to South Africa, just let me know, man. We'll see. As I'm sure, like skating is just. I don't know if I'm happy to say this, but skating is still too small. So I'm not. It's cool, it's not a complaint, you know. It's like it's in a good way. So
yeah, and then I mean, with it being a little smaller, and then the technology that we have available now, it's cool to be able to talk to you all the way over there about amazing. Skating. It's great. It's so much fun.
Cheers, man. Thank you so much for taking the time for this, and I'm really looking forward to get my frames, and we're gonna stay in contact, and right after we finish this I'm gonna send you the image of those skates that I just said. Okay, if you can work on something, that would be cool.
That's good.
Okay, man, let's stay in contact. Cheers. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
You're welcome. Take care. Bye.
And that was it. Wish Frames main man, Cletus Kuhn. I hope you enjoy this skate talk as much as I did. It was cool talking about like really, really nerdy skate stuff. And if you enjoyed, let me know in the comments. Let me know who you want to be my next guest. I have a few ideas, but you know what? Your ideas are always welcome. So thank you so much for listening to this. And again, if you enjoy this, other than leaving me a comment, why don't you also subscribe to the channel? I'm going to be making more of these. I try to post as much inline skating content as I can, roller skating content, and whatever has to do with wheels. That's it. So, hope to see you guys soon, or hope you guys see me soon, something like that. And thanks for listening. Cheers, guys.
Vou viver até quando